Good evening and welcome to this Mythical Ireland podcast. My name is Anthony Murphy. As always, for more information about Mythical Ireland, go to the website mythicalireland.com. I'm also on facebook.com/Mythical Ireland. And the podcasts can be found on YouTube, and that's again at Mythical Ireland, youtube.com/user/Mythical Ireland. And on Mixcloud if you just search for Mythical Ireland podcast. Tonight's topic is about who might be in Irish mythology the Lord of the Rings, or perhaps in this case more appropriately the Lord of the Ring. I'm a big fan of Tolkien's epic, having read it as a teenager and having loved the mythical aspect of it, and of course it was undoubtedly greatly inspired by many mythic epics from European mythology. Anyway, tonight I am going to talk about a possible Irish contender in terms of somebody in Irish mythology concerned with a gold ring. And in order to, I suppose, extricate this character and the story, we first have to turn to the wider tale in which it is embedded, and that wider tale is the very, very famous story of the Battle of Moytura, Cath Maige Tuired, and that, of course, is the epic battle between the Tuatha Dé Danann, the ancient deities, and the Fomorians, or in Irish, the Favore. And, well, I don't want to spoil it for you in case you haven't read it, so we won't perhaps give the outcome of it. Anyway, the character in question is a character of dubious nature, but this dubious nature is not exposed until such time as he gains the kingship or the leadership of the Tuatha Dé Danann. One of the fascinating things about Cath Maige Tuired is that it begins in the vein of Leabhar Gabhála, in ascribing the origins of the Dé Dananns to the northern isles of the world, and it talks about their mysterious learning and their witchcraft and their druidry, etc. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is read the sections from this is Elizabeth Gray's translation of the Second Battle of Moytura. Sorry, I should have said that. There are two battles of Moytura. Cath Maige Tuired, or in Old Irish, Cath Maige Tuired, concerns the Second Battle of Moytura. The first battle is between the Dé Dananns and the Firvolg. The tale below is the Battle of Maige Tuired, or Moytura actually is how it would be anglicised, Moytura, and the birth of Bress, son of Eletha, and his reign. The Tuatha Dé Danann were in the northern islands of the world, studying occult lore and sorcery, druidic arts and witchcraft and magical skill, until they surpassed the sages of the pagan arts. They studied occult lore and secret knowledge and diabolic arts in 4 cities, Folias, Gorias, Murias, and Findias, and of course the diabolic arts, undoubtedly that is an insertion into the manuscript by whatever learned Christian monk was the one who was scribing this myth onto vellum. From Folias was brought the Stone of Fall, which was located in Tara. It used to cry out beneath every king that would take Ireland, and of course that is Leofoil, the Stone of Destiny. From Gorias was brought the Spear of Lugh. Sorry, the spear which Lugh had. The one he had, not the one that he owned. No battle was ever sustained against it, or against the man who held it in his hand. From Findias was brought the Sword of Nuadu. No one ever escaped from it once it was drawn from its deadly sheath, and no one could resist it. From Murias was brought the Dagda's Cauldron. No company ever went away from it unsatisfied. There were 4 wizards in these 4 cities. Morfessa was in Phalias, Esras was in Gorias, Ushkias was in Findias, Semish was in Murias. I'm terribly sorry for my pronunciations. Those are the 4 poets from whom the Tuatha Dé Danann learned occult lore and secret knowledge. It's interesting that in the same paragraph that they're described as wizards, they're also described as poets. The Tuatha Dé made an alliance with the Favora, and Balor, the grandson of Naich, gave his daughter Ethna to Cian, the son of Dian Cecht, and she bore the glorious child Lug, or in later Irish, Lu, L-U-G or L-U-G-H. I love that description, glorious. And of course, Lu goes by many titles in the myths, chief among which are Lu Mac Ethnan, the son of Ethna, Lu Lawfada, Lu of the Long Arm, and Lu Samaldonach, the Many-Gifted. The Tuatha Dé came with a great fleet to Ireland to take it by force from the Fir Bolg. Upon reaching the territory of Corcu Belgatan, which is in Conmacnamara today, they at once burned their boats so that they would not think of fleeing to them. In other words, they were too brave to retreat from whatever enemy lay ahead. The smoke and the mist which came from the ships filled the land and the air which was near them. For that reason, it has been thought that they arrived in clouds of mist. The Battle of Maige Tuired, I'm going to try and pronounce it the very old way, and again I'm probably butchering that, was fought between them and the Fir Bolg, or the Fir Bolg in more recent Irish. The Fir Bolg were defeated, and 100,000 of them were killed, including the king, Yochi Mac Urk. Nuadu's hand was cut off in that battle. Shreng Mac Sengen struck it from him. So with Craigna the brazier helping him, Dian Cecht the physician put on him a silver hand that moved as well as any other hand. That is the story, of course, of how Nuadu, who was the leader or the king of the Tuatha Dé Danann, had his arm chopped off in the First Battle of Moytura, and that myth about him getting a silver arm inspired the scene in Star Wars, and I'm serious about this is not a joke, in which Luke Skywalker, having confronted Darth Vader and discovered that Vader was in fact his father, then has his old lad, as we call them as we call our fathers in Ireland in the slang, his father chopped his arm off, and at the end of the movie you see Luke Skywalker in the hospital bay on the big ship, on the big spacecraft, and he is getting a robotic arm, and that is inspired by the story of Nuadu, whose epithet is Aragatlov, Nuadu of the Silver Arm. Now the Tuatha Dé Danann lost many men in the battle, including Edlio MacAli and Ernmas and Fiacha and Tyrrell Brickrio, and I think Tyrrell Brickrio is the same guy as Brickrew's Feast. Now, I could be mistaken about that. Then those of the Fir Bolg who escaped from the battle fled to the Favora, and they settled in Arran and in Islay and in Man and in Rathlin, on all of the islands. There was contention regarding the sovereignty of the men of Ireland between the Tuatha Dé and their wives, since Nuadu was not eligible for kingship after his hand had been cut off. They said that it would be appropriate for them to give the kingship to Bress, the son of Elaha, to their own adopted son, and that giving him the kingship would knit the Fomorians' alliance with them, since his father, Elaha MacDelbaith, was a king of the Fomora. Now the conception of Bress came about in this way, and this is the story, the storyline in the greater tale that is of interest here to us and our exploration of the theme, who is the Irish Lord of the Ring. One day, one of their women, Eru, the daughter of Delbaith, was looking at the sea and the land from the house of Mai Shkeni, and she saw the sea as perfectly calm as if it were a level board. After that, while she was there, she saw something, a vessel of silver appeared to her on the sea. Its size seemed great to her, but its shape did not appear clearly to her, and the current of the sea carried it to the land. Then she saw that it was a man of fairest appearance. He had golden yellow hair down to his shoulders, and a cloak with bands of gold thread around it. His shirt had embroidery of gold thread. On his breast was a brooch of gold with the lustre of a precious stone in it, 2 shining silver spears, and in them 2 smooth riveted shafts of bronze, 5 circlets of gold around his neck, a gold-hilted sword with inlayings of silver and studs of gold. The man said to her, "Shall I have an hour of love-making with you?" "I certainly have not made a tryst with you," she said. "Come without the trysting," said he. They then stretched themselves out together. Of course, it doesn't go into detail, nor does it need to. The woman wept when the man got up again. "Why are you crying?" he asked. "I have 2 things that I should lament," said the woman, "separating from you, however we have met. The young men of the Tuatha Dé Danann have been entreating me in vain, and you possess me as you do. Your anxiety about these 2 things will be removed," he said. He drew his gold ring from his middle finger and put it into her hand, and told her that she should not part with it, either by sale or by gift, except to someone whose finger it would fit. "Another matter troubles me," said the woman, "that I do not know who has come to me." "You will not remain ignorant of that," he said. "Elaha MacDelbaith, king of the Favora, has come to you. You will bear a son as a result of our meeting, and let no name be given to him but Ochu Bress, that is, Ochu the Beautiful, because every beautiful thing that is seen in Ireland, both plain and fortress, ale and candle, woman and man and horse, will be judged in relation to that boy, so that people will then say of it, 'It is a Bress.'" Then the man went back again, and the woman returned to her home, and the famous Conception was given to her. And I suppose we should reflect upon the fact that this is not the only sort of miraculous conception that takes place in Irish mythology. One could, for instance, draw attention to the conception of Angus by Dagda and Bowen, when Dagda sends Bowen's husband Elkmar away on an errand that seems like just 1 day to Elkmar, but is in fact 9 months. And Angus Og is conceived and born in the same day, thus his epithet Angus Og, Angus the Young. And one could also think about Dectana's arrival at Newgrange in winter time, and when Lou comes to her in a dream and says that she is going to conceive of a boy and he will be called Setanta, the very same who later becomes Cuchulainn, the most famous warrior of Irish mythology from the epic Táin Cuilne. Then she gave birth to the boy, and the name Ochu Bress was given to him as Elaha had said. A week after the woman's lying-in was completed, the boy had 2 weeks' growth, and he maintained that increase for 7 years, until he had reached the growth of 14 years. As a result of that contention which took place among the Tuatha, the sovereignty of Ireland was given to that youth, and he gave 7 guarantors from the warriors of Ireland, his maternal kinsmen, for his restitution of the sovereignty if his own misdeeds should give cause. Then his mother gave him land, and he had a fortress built on the land, Dún Mrish, and it was the Dagda who built that fortress, which is interesting because the Dagda was the chief of the Tuatha Dé Danann, and he finds himself building the fort. So anyway, I'm going to summarise some of what follows. Basically, after Bress assumes the sovereignty, things basically turn sour, and the Tuatha Dé Danann are made to do very menial tasks. and they're not happy with the situation at all. In the meantime, they're trying to restore Nuadu, who's had his arm chopped off, and in the hope that, I think it maybe doesn't explicitly say it, but in the hope that he can regain the kingship. Now Nuadu was being treated, and Diancecht put a silver hand on him, which had the movement of any other hand. But his son Meach did not like that. He went to the hand and said, "Joint to joint of it, and sinew to sinew," and he healed it in 9 days and nights. The first 3 days he carried it against his side, and it became covered with skin. The second 3 days he carried it against his chest. The third 3 days he would cast white wisps of black bulrushes after they had been blackened in a fire. Diancecht did not like that cure and basically kills Meach. Incredible stuff. He kills his own son. After that, Meach was buried by Diancecht, and 365 herbs grew through the grave, corresponding to the number of his joints and sinews. Then Armid spread her cloak and uprooted those herbs according to their properties. Diancecht came to her and mixed the herbs, so that no one knows their proper healing qualities unless the Holy Spirit taught them afterwards. And of course, that is an obvious insertion again by the Christian scribe. And Diancecht said, "Though Meach no longer lives, Aramid shall remain." At that time Bress held the sovereignty, as it had been granted to him. There was a great murmuring against him among his maternal kinsmen, the Tuatha, for their knives were not greased by him. However frequently they might come, their breaths did not smell of ale, and they did not see their poets, nor their bards, nor their satirists, nor their harpers, nor their pipers, nor their hornblowers, nor their jugglers, nor their fools entertaining them in the household. They did not go to contests of those preeminent in the arts, nor did they see their warriors proving their skill at arms before the king, except for one man, Ogma, the son of Etain. This was the duty which he had, to bring firewood to the fortress. He would bring a bundle every day from the islands of Clube. The sea would carry off 2/3 of his bundle because he was weak for lack of food. So Ogma, the great Ogma, is reduced to carrying firewood. And so on one occasion, the poet, that is Corpora, son of Etain, the poet of the Tuatha, came to the house of Bress seeking hospitality. He entered a narrow, black, dark little house, and there was neither fire nor furniture nor bedding in it. 3 small cakes were brought to him on a little dish, and they were dry. The next day he arose, and he was not thankful. As he went across the yard, he said, "Without food quickly on a dish, without cow's milk on which a calf grows, without a man's habitation after darkness remains, without paying a company of storytellers, let that be Bress's condition. Bress's prosperity no longer exists," he said, and that was true. There was only blight on him from that hour, and that is the first satire that was made in Ireland. Now after that, the Tuatha went together to talk with their adopted son Bress MacEllahan, and they asked him for their sureties. He gave them restoration of the kingship, and they did not regard him as properly qualified to rule from that time on. He asked to remain for 7 years. "You will have that," the same assembly agreed, provided that the safeguarding of every payment that has been assigned to you, including house and land, gold and silver, cattle and food, is supported by the same securities, and that we have freedom of tribute and payment until then. You will have what you ask," Bress said. This is why they were asked for the delay, that he might gather the warriors of the Sidhe, the Fomhora, to take possession of the Tuatha by force, provided he might gain an overwhelming advantage. He was unwilling to be driven from his kingship. In other words, the reason Bress had asked for the 7-year delay was to muster the armies of the Fomorians for another great battle, in which he hoped to be victorious and hold on to the kingship. I am not going to spoil what happens in the conclusion of that, but the next bit is of interest because we return to the theme, which is the Lord of the Ring. Then he went to his mother, this is Bress, and asked her where his family was. "I am certain about that," she said, and went onto the hill from which she had seen the silver vessel in the sea. She then went onto the shore. His mother gave him the ring which had been left with her, and he put it around his middle finger, and it fitted him. She had not given it up for anyone, either by sale or gift. Until that day, there was none of them whom it would fit. And so that's where I'm going to leave the story, but just to explore it for a second. Basically, this mystery man who appears on the calm sea to Bress's mother, takes a ring off his finger, and a gold ring, and gives it to her and says, don't... we'll go back and just read it to make sure I have it right, because I don't want to summarize it if I'm getting it wrong. Apologies. He drew the gold ring from his middle finger and put it into her hand and told her she should not part with it either by sale or by gift, except to someone whose finger it would fit. And in that regard, we're thinking of Cinderella and the glass slipper. That it's only one person that it was going to fit. So what does it mean then for Bress? First of all, it means that it's a way of identifying his tribe, as it were, and his father, Elaha. And the other aspect of it is that it could be considered a symbol of kingship, because at that point, although he's been told he will be stripped of the kingship, he has petitioned the Daedanans to hold on to the title for a further 7 years. And of course, he hopes to muster the army of the Fomorians to battle against the Daedanans and to defeat them. So in some ways, I suppose it could be looked at as a symbol of his kingship. I just wonder whether Tolkien had read all this. I suspect that he might have. Now, this translation of the Second Battle of Moytura was first published in 1983, which is very late, but I'm not sure if there were previous translations. There were certainly summaries of it published in many works, a century or two ago. The more popular translations of Irish mythical episodes and epics. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed that little excursion into the Second Battle of Moytura. That translation, by the way, is published by the Irish Texts Society and can be purchased on the Irish Texts Society website. Although it was first published in 1983, there have been several reprints, and the one I have is reprinted 2012. Many of the Irish Text Society publications that translated, by the way, this has the Irish and the English translation. It has the Irish on the left hand pages and the English on the right, a substantial introduction and then substantial notes as well, copious notes at the end. And so it's bound in the lovely green hardback cover that many of the Irish Text Society volumes are bound in, with the gold lettering and the gold symbol on the front, which I'm not sure, it's some sort of a Celtic circular pattern. Anyway, in other news, just in case you're stumbling on this and you haven't seen other things that are going on, right now I have published a couple of videos recently featuring megalithic art at Fornox. Now, actually there are 3 videos in total. 2 of those are only currently available to my patrons, to Mythical Ireland patrons over at patreon.com/Mythical Ireland. But the way I'm generally publishing videos is that the better ones are reserved exclusively for patrons first and foremost, and then eventually released for general public consumption. But there was an interesting phenomenon that was occurring at Fornox in the past couple of days, something that I've never seen in 20 years going there, and that is that the slits in the roof, the little openings in the modern roof that was added to Fornox to protect it and to protect its megalithic art from the elements, they allow ambient light in to illuminate the megalithic art. But what was happening was sunlight, direct beams of sunlight were entering in, and this is causing the art to be very, very beautifully lit up with a shimmering light because the clouds were moving fast and the sun was coming in and out behind clouds. So that's very well worth having a look at. And again, the YouTube channel is youtube.com/Mythical Ireland. I have just released today, as I'm recording this, a video in which I was talking about precession of the equinoxes and whether the ancient Irish astronomers who built the megalithic monuments might have been able to perceive this very slow wobble of the Earth's axis, in conjunction with my rereading lately of the book Hamlet's Mill, which explores the idea that precession of the equinoxes is encoded into European mythology. So that video is actually more than half an hour long. I hope you enjoy that when you get a chance to have a look at it. In the meantime, keep up with everything that's happening in Mythical Ireland on the Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Mythical Ireland. And don't forget, there is also now a Mythical Ireland community on Facebook, and the aim of that is to allow, because on the Mythical Ireland page, I am the only one who's able to post material. People can respond to that. But on the Mythical Ireland community, you can also start discussions once, of course, you stick to the themes that are covered by Mythical Ireland. In other news, I am writing book number 7 currently. It is going to be about the discovery last summer by myself and Ken Williams of the new henge at Newgrange, dubbed Dronehenge, and all of the excitement around that. It's the story of the discovery and what followed, and all of the discoveries and revelations that were made in the weeks and months following that. But it will not be a sort of a heavy archaeological treatise on the in-depth interpretation of what this might be. I will have theories and ideas, of course, some of them prompted by mythology and astronomical concerns. So I'm writing that currently. Actually, at this stage, I've about 1/3 of it written. I certainly have at least a quarter. I'm heading towards having 1/3 of it completed. It will be published by the Liffey Press in October. Of course, I will give plenty of notice of the publication of that before then. So that's keeping me really, really busy. Book number 6, I finished writing a couple of months ago. It is tentatively called Return to Segish and is like nothing I've ever written before. I am investigating routes to publication for that. It's not the sort of thing that my own publisher, I don't think, would publish. It's not fiction either. It sort of strays between fiction and non-fiction, and parts of it are reflective and philosophical and spiritual and mystical. And perhaps in due course I will give a more thorough summary of it and entreat the Mythical Ireland following to try to see if we can find a way of getting it published. In the meantime, as I say, don't forget to keep an eye on the blog on the website mythicalireland.com and go to the blog where I regularly make contributions there. And if you have any comments or queries, please make them below. Don't forget, you can send an email, mythicalireland@gmail.com, and we're looking forward to continuing this journey through myths, megaliths and astronomy, or star stones and stories, as I said in Island of the Setting Sun, which is my first book, published back in 2006. I hope you've enjoyed this brief foray into Irish myth, and if so, great, we'll do more of this in the future. Thanks a million. I'm Anthony Murphy. This is Mythical Ireland Podcast.